Hey everybody, welcome to our series on networking, or better yet, how to keep your networking from not working. Now this is our second lesson or second video in the series, so if you haven't seen the first one, take a look at the first video. There's kind of a lot that we cover in there that we're going to be covering in this video and in subsequent videos. But in the lesson today, we're going to talk about the elevator speech and really why it might be the worst possible thing, or at the very least, it's the most ineffective thing that you can do. It's a giant waste of time, and it was probably good in a very small niche of circumstances, but yet you go to networking groups or you go out and you're always told that you're prepared to have an elevator speech. The guy that I listened to the other day said you want your 30-second, your 60-second, your 1 minute, and your 3-minute elevator speech. And I got to tell you right now, I do not want to hear a 3-minute elevator speech. You won't even make it through the 3-minute elevator speech. You probably won't even make it through the 1-minute elevator speech. But realistically, it's something that people feel like they have to do. I know I did, but it turns out to be one of the least effective things you could possibly do. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of unravel that myth today, and I'm actually going to show you some things you can do that are a lot more common sense. They're more comfortable, they're going to make you feel more like yourself, and actually they're going to give you a ton of confidence because you're going to stand out and have tremendous value compared to everybody else there. So let's get started. Now, when you're at a networking event, some networking events you go to and they're kind of casual. They might have an open bar or some food and tables and people mix and mingle. But there's a lot of other networking groups that are very structured, so that you're at a lunch or you're at a breakfast, and they kind of go around the room, and everybody has their turn, to kind of promote their business. And I've seen a lot of them where, realistically, most of it is their elevator speech. You'll say, okay, give me a 30-second elevator speech. But there's some big problems with it that we never really think about. But if you step back, it begins to be pretty obvious, although it's very counterintuitive. And for me, I know I never really noticed it before, but there's a few things that, once you see them, you're just never going to want to do it again. The first of which is no one's listening to you at all. I mean, maybe if you're the last person to go, maybe they might listen to you, but you're not somebody that people are listening to. People basically are waiting to talk. We always know that. Whenever there's a conversation, people are going back and forth. 90% of the time, people are not listening to you. They're just waiting for you to stop speaking so that they can actually talk. But in a networking group, when you're giving your elevator speech, it's even worse. Because these people, it's not even just that they're eager to talk. It's the exact opposite. They're rehearsing in their head everything that they're going to say, and they're trying to memorize it. They're trying to talk themselves up morale-wise and motivation-wise. And really, they don't even notice you. They don't know what you said, they don't know your name, and it really does nothing. So all this work and all this stress and anxiety that you're basically getting involved in is for naught. So that being said, it's going to offer a tremendous opportunity when I show you some of the things that you can do to actually get people's attention and make them listen and really make them want to talk to you more than anything. But the second area, the reason that people, why the elevator speeches don't work, and this really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, is that people are skeptical. They're always skeptical. It's the reason why every sales trainer in the world tells you you need to overcome objections, establish rapport, call people a million times, and go all through these machinations to get somebody to finally buy. It's because they're skeptical. They don't believe you. They've seen a million other untrustworthy, versions of you out there, and they're just not going to be suckered into it. And to be perfectly honest, they're absolutely right. They're justified in not being, in having that skepticism. So, you listen to somebody and they say that they have great service, they've been in the business 20 years, they have the lowest price, they take care of them, they're like family. Gosh, I've heard that so many times, more than I can count. And you just heard it so many times that it's like, yeah, whatever. I've heard that before. You're no different than any other person out there. Some of the reasons people believe that, obviously, is they actually believe it, and then they actually buy it from the person, and then they find out that it was a bunch of hogwash, right? It was totally a sell job on their part, and they weren't really treated the way that the advertisement went. But on the other side, even if you didn't buy it, when you hear 25 people say the same thing, eventually it just gets old in your head and you generally don't believe it. Now, the third factor in why traditional elevator speeches don't work, and this is kind of my pet peeve of all of them, is their formulaic content. So usually you're going to say your name, your business, give a description of it, who's your target market or ideal client, and what people can do to buy from you. But it's routine. You hear it over and over. If there's a group of 20 people, you hear the same thing 20 times in a row. And the thing is, there's actually a part of your brain that's in your thalamus. It's called the pulvinar cortex. And its main job is basically like a railroad divider. Its job is to take routine stimuli and send it down one path and not really pay a whole lot of attention to it, but to direct new stimuli, things that you've never experienced before that are new, and to direct it down a different neural path and to focus all of your energy on that. That's why whenever you see a new car that's out that you've never seen before, it catches your attention. When you go and have ice cream and there's a flavor that you've never tasted before, it really gets your attention. But if you're one of these people that just continually goes and gets chocolate all the time, yeah, you might like the chocolate, but it's not going to jump out at you. And like I said, there's literally a physical part of your brain that's designed to work against you when you're doing these mainstream elevator speech concepts. And so, when you have this formulaic content, what you're really doing is making sure that all the people in the room, that your message goes in an area of their brain where they're literally just going to put it aside and not pay attention to it. And now finally we come to the last part of your elevator speech. It's your pitch. It's you trying to put them into your marketing funnel. And we talked about this in other videos, and if you have not watched the first video, seriously, stop this video now and go watch the first one, because we cover this particular area a lot more extensively. But people don't want to be put into a marketing funnel. They don't. I mean, they might want a product that has tremendously high value and they're totally convinced they want to buy it, but there's still a part of them that doesn't want to be in the marketing funnel. And anything short of that, if you have a product that they're not sure of, it really makes people uncomfortable to be in that situation. So when you're talking to somebody and really piquing their interest, and all of a sudden they get interested and you have their attention, and all of a sudden you introduce, hey, let me put you in the marketing funnel, immediately they're going to shut you down. And, this great thing that they thought they were going to learn, the bubble burst, and they're done. And now they're jaded towards you. Now they're not even going to listen to you anymore. But yet, this is something that you hear all the time. So people will say, yeah, if you need X, Y, and Z done, give me a call, or I'll give you my business card. And again, it's just somebody saying, it's like saying to the mouse, here, come into the trap and eat the cheese. I mean, nobody's stupid enough to do it. They know what they're getting into. And in the end, it's really boring. I mean, you hear 15, 20, 100, over time, hundreds and thousands of elevator speeches, and it's just boring. It's the same thing. Nobody knows how to do them well. Nobody likes doing them, but they feel like they have to do them. And in the end, you never get a strong result out of them. Well, most people don't. Now, what I'm going to teach you today is actually how to change it up and to use that pulvinar cortex to your advantage. How to actually get people that you're talking to in any networking event. You could still, quote, use an elevator speech, although I hate the term. And so maybe we'll just even set the term aside. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to show you how to take advantage of that pulvinar cortex and how to get them tremendously interested in you, how to actually stand out, how to make them just have an itch to want to talk to you, and at the same time develop tremendous trust with the person, even if you've never talked with them one-on-one. That they really feel like, hey, this is a person who's genuine, their guard goes down, they're definitely interested, and they feel like they have that itch that they need to scratch by talking to you. And it's really simple. It's not something that you need a PhD in psychology or anything. You could have a GED, and you could drop out of high school. And all of this is relatively simple. But it's, like I said in the very beginning, it's very counterintuitive. It's not something that people ever teach, and it's not something that you ever really think about. But I'm going to put these concepts in front of you, and I'm going to show you how easy they are. And the great thing about this is when you do this, the confidence you're going to gain from really understanding what's really going on, all while the stress and anxiety just go away, it's actually going to make this process fun. So while there's 20 people in the room doing it, 19 people are stressing out, don't like it, wish it would go away, and then you're sitting here just having this total giggling grin on your face because you know what's going on and you know how to tap in to some of these methods. And I will give a little shout out. Some of the things that we're going to teach in here are just tastes of what we cover in the Attraction Switches series. So if you haven't not subscribed to that, go to our website, and it's a great series. It's half a dozen lessons, in-depth, long-form lessons with practical things you can do to get people immediately just entranced with the idea of buying from you. But that's enough of that. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you some really cool stuff here. So I've mentioned it a couple times so far in this video. There's a part of your brain called a thalamus, and it's like the control center of your brain. But within that, there's an area of your brain called the pulvinar cortex. And its whole job is it's basically like a traffic cop. The stimuli that it gets, it's seen, it doesn't need to really process. It diverts it off to an area where it's really not going to pay a whole lot of attention to it. But the things that are new, it's going to store in and really pay attention to and figure out what it is and spend most of your attention on it. And when you're networking, this is a big part of really making a stand. So the first thing that you need to do with that in mind is you need to be different. If everybody in there is the same, they just can't wait for this whole elevator speech process to end. But when you can stand out and be totally different than everybody else, people are going to notice it. They're going to pay attention. Eye contact's going to be there. If they're serving food, the people will stop eating, and you'll have a room of people just completely locked in on you. And at that point, it's not over. Now that you've got their attention, you need to continue to spike that interest. And I'm going to show you how. Now, we talked about the fact that typically when most people learn about elevator speeches, there is a specific structure to them. It's like the Navy SEALs. Get in, get out, get in, get out, get in, get out. But anybody who's in business, whether they're a buyer or a seller, and I've been on both sides of that desk, understand what each party's doing. If you're doing a traditional elevator speech, every person in the world who has a purchasing function understands what you're doing. So obviously being different is really crucial. But number two is you need to completely stay away from the structure. So if everybody else is doing the, hi, my name's Matt, I'm with the Negotiators Playbook, and this is what my business is, and this is who my ideal client is, and blah, blah, blah. This is where you have to stand out and completely not do that. And actually, and a lot, to make it even more powerful, you could actually just say, look, I'm actually going to, I know you guys normally do a structure, but I'm going to actually break that structure today because I want to tell you something really amazing. And at this point, again, you're completely hitting that pulvinar cortex. People are thinking, wow, this guy's like breaking all the rules. He's not doing it. And by saying, hey, I have something awesome to share with you, their ears are completely tuned to you, and they're really eager to hear what you have to say. I mean, obviously, you're kind of the renegade in a sense, and they're going to want to hear what this renegade has to say. Towards the beginning of this video lesson, we talked about the reasons why traditional elevator speeches don't work. And there's just a litany of them. You can go back and rewind it if you don't remember what they are. But the idea is you want to actually proactively bring it up to the group and talk about it and just say, the reason that I'm not doing it is, look, most of you guys, when you're doing before you get to your elevator speech, none of us are listening. We're probably checking our phones. We're thinking about 18 other things outside of this meeting. And realistically, you're probably skeptical anyway, because people are always going to tell you that they are, the best in what they do and their product is greater than any other person. But we know that that's very rarely ever the case. And when you really address these negatives, the things that we talked about head on, you're going to get a lot of people that are agreeing with you, and they'll never come out and say it and be the first person to mention it. But now that you mention it, they're going to be nodding their head, either physically or inside their head, but they're going to be like, yeah, absolutely. And at this point, this is a big trust builder and a big DHV, a display of higher value, because now you've actually come out and stated what they already knew. It shows you have tremendous confidence, and you end up being, in a sense, in a leadership position. And for people, that is a massive attraction switch, being what they call a leader of men, because they know that you're not sitting here waiting for other people to lead. You are not afraid to state an opinion, but it's an opinion that they get, they understand. They just didn't think anybody thought it or had the courage to even say it. So at that point, they're going to basically give you the lead, and you have an opportunity to really start to direct them when you do get to talk to them one-on-one. Now, as you do this, there's a big tripwire waiting for you. Most people think that, the elevator speech is a chance for you to market your business, which is what they teach. That's true. It is what they teach. And there's going to be a temptation to want to talk about you and your business. And I'm telling you right now, this is where the effectiveness of your presentation is either going to take off through the roof, or it is going to do a massive nosedive. And the one crucial variable that will determine which way it goes is whether or not you talk about you and your business. Most people are going to talk about their business and what they do. I'm telling you right now, don't do it, because everybody there is going to assume that that's a passive sales presentation. So you're probably asking, okay, well, if I'm doing this and I'm breaking all the rules and I'm not really talking about my business, well, what am I doing up there? Well, this is where you're really going to take that point where you become different, and you're going to ramp it up to an absolutely whole nother level. So what you want to do is you want to educate that group on something that they had no idea about that's going to screw them. And yeah, I said screw them. I probably could have said other words, but that's just a fact. And I hear people all the time, if they're financial planners, and they'll talk about, the market and why it's safe to invest with them. But realistically, and I met a guy literally yesterday who was talking about this, and I couldn't believe it. I'm talking to a financial advisor who's literally in agreement with me on the fact that if you were to invest like most of the people want you to invest, you're going to retire poor and broke and live with your kids and grandkids, and it's going to be an abysmal failure. If you get up there and you're a financial planner and you just talk about the same things about, the market's up and down and don't worry, you know what? Nobody's going to believe you. But if you get up there and talk about, listen, the 401k is the number one thing that will screw you and leave you homeless by the time you're 75, and I could tell you more, then all of a sudden at that point, they have a problem on their hands because they're aiming for retirement or what have you. And here is an expert in the field, somebody who's already demonstrated value. They're a leader of men, and people are paying attention to them vividly. And you've basically clued them in on something that is going to threaten their lifestyle and their family and just so many of the plans they had. The same type of thing. If it's life insurance, this is, the two things that every life insurance agent will never tell you that's going to screw you is this. But whatever it is in your industry, you're basically like Penn and Teller. You're showing them what the magicians don't want you to see. And it's like, my brother's a pilot, and I was flying with him one time. He wasn't flying, he was in one of the deadhead seats, but the plane had a problem, so they deboarded everybody on the plane, but they let me stay on, and we were talking to the service crew and the pilots, and so I was just saying, hey, is there any kind of myths or whatever that you guys never tell anybody? And they said, yeah. And he said, yeah, in flight school, he said, when they say in the event of a water landing, you can pull out your seat cushion and use it as a flotation device. He said, no, that's absolutely a lie. He said, in flight school, we were always taught that in the event of a water landing, you need to swim away from all the passengers because those things are going to fill up with water and they're going to sink to the ground. And the passengers are going to want to basically, grab hold of you as a flotation device. And it's funny because I've asked several pilots outside of my brother, completely people that don't know each other, and every single one of them absolutely wholeheartedly agreed with them. And so one of the things that you can do, and it was for me, first of all, for me that whole idea was crazy. I'm like, okay, well, I'm sure there's probably a lot more of that I don't want to know. But having, saying something like that in a meeting where you can say, this is something that they're not going to tell you, it's going to screw you. I mean, you're creating a problem for them of epic proportions. In a sense, you're creating a catastrophe for them. At that point in time, and you invite them, and I can show you how to solve that, it's easy. Because then what's going to happen is these people are going to come by and they're going to ask you about it. You're not going to have to go talk to them. You're not going to have to pursue them. You're not going to have to sell them. But you're going to educate them. You're going to fix this problem. And all of a sudden now, you have even more value, because now you're not only trusted, you're not only different, you're not only an expert, you're not only a leader of men, but you have tangibly solved a problem for them and taken away a worry. And at this point in time, the ability for any competition to even hold a candle to you is nothing. And this is one of the methods that you can use to take yourself from being a commodity in your industry, from being one of thousands or 10,000s of people in your industry, and being the singular person that people want to go to, that they literally will not lower themselves to go to any of your competition. And it's a tremendous thing. And at that point, a passive income stream is either in your lap or it's just about to be there. And your lifestyle completely changes. And finally, the one thing that you want to do, and this is going to pair off with what we talked about in the first episode, was you get them to this point and you help them with that answer. Well, there's only one thing to do, is to get out of there, to bounce. And that's really important. In the first episode, we called it the art of the walkaway. And it's really important because it shows them that you're not needy. It shows them that you're not trying to sell them on anything. And by leaving, there is a passive indicator that you have something better to do and that you're leaving. They might have your card, but they don't have you anymore. Your attention and your presence is now a scarcity. It is a scarce commodity. And at this point, your value goes so through the roof that you really don't have to work that hard. And at that point, developing referral streams is easy. Getting people to buy in your terms is just honestly really simple. And realizing that you've tapped into this one factor, this one way of doing things that completely can unlock your networking success, it's awesome. I mean, it is totally awesome. And it's freeing because you never have to go through the stress and worry of going through the same thing that you've done before, not getting the results that you want. And now, if you do this right, the better you ramp it up and the more you practice and the more you execute this and master it, you can then start to really, kind of limit who your customers are, fire some customers if you need to, but definitely decide to charge more, to make more money for the same work or less work, which is why we're all here. It's such a powerful thing. So in the end, you have a choice. You can go and do what everybody else is doing and get the same results everybody else is doing, which is struggling, right? Or you can step out, do something different, get their attention, activate that pulvinar cortex, and completely get results you've never seen before. When you do the second one, and you keep practicing and getting better and better at it, your lifestyle is going to change tremendously. But if you really want to ramp it up, accessing and learning from all the lessons that we have in the community are really, really important. And you need to get into those if you really want to take it to another level. But this one factor can completely change how you're viewed by other people. It lowers the bar for them. It gives them a completely plausibly deniable way to come up to you. And, it immediately raises your value to a point where they're not going to look at anybody else to solve that problem except you. So until the next lesson, I'll see you guys soon.